All right, you guys, I'm so excited to be chatting with you tonight. If you have been part of our fall fitness fun fair this whole week, I hope you've been able to maximize your calls and being on the calls with some of the coaches that have been in here. They are awesome. And if you haven't been able to watch them yet, go watch the recording. I think they're really going to help no matter where you are in your wellness journey. So I'm Natasha. If you don't know me, I've been coaching for like 5.5 years so far. And I started when I was about 12 weeks postpartum. I had like a terrible pregnancy and a terrible delivery. And I was struggling really badly with postpartum depression and anxiety and trying to overcome like years of disordered eating with food and disordered relationships with my body, nutrition, exercise, and all that came from having like a parenting kind of role that really looked at exercise and nutrition as a way of restricting their food. And so when you grow up that way, that's kind of how you're wired to think around food and how you're thinking about exercise in general. So tonight, I want you to turn your camera on so I can see all your faces and participate. Steph's like, damn it, I was gonna hop off the camera. Participate as you can. Feel free to ask questions. The more you engage in here, the more you're going to get out of this call. And don't be afraid to talk about the things that you're struggling with around nutrition and mindset, because chances are if you are talking about those things, other people are also struggling with them too. So like I said, drop your questions in the chat. I will go through them and I will answer them as we go. But a little bit about me. So I have lost about 115 pounds in total since starting Beachbody. And I think as amazing as that is, that's not the piece that I'm the most proud of. I think the piece that I'm the most proud of is changing my relationship with exercise and changing my relationship with nutrition, because that doesn't just affect me, it affects Nora, my daughter, and it affects our future children if we have that, and it affects our future grandchildren, and so on and so on. And so the work that you're doing around nutrition and mindset and exercise, it feels like it ends with you, but it doesn't. And I think that's the biggest thing if you leave tonight with, is realizing that even if you haven't made the changes that you want to make, even if you've started and stopped altogether, haven't started at all, those decisions and those behaviors or those habits that you start to form, it's not just about you. And I think sometimes we give up on our journey because we feel like either we're being selfish, we're taking too much time away from our family, our kids, et cetera. It's too hard. But I'm going to challenge you to shift your focus and imagine what that decision could make for everybody else in your family, right? If you gave yourself that permission to prioritize your nutrition and prioritize your wellness and your sleep and all those things, imagine that's not a selfish decision, that's a necessary decision, because then that helps you show up everywhere else as you need to. So if the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is your wellness it's up to you, right? And that might sound a little harsh. If it does, I'm sorry, but it's true. I think you can have all the tools and you can have all the support and you can have all the things, but until you decide to draw a line in the sand and decide that you're going to fight for how you want to feel, then nothing else is going to change, right? So at the beginning though, it's hard. It's hard if you come from this sort of idea of this identity that you have for yourself, right? I had to design a new identity. I had to view who I wanted myself to be, that version of myself, and then actively make choices around how she would show up. I called her Natasha 2.0. And I would ask myself daily questions like, how does Natasha 2.0 handle this? How does she answer those nutritional habits? What would she do? Does she hit snooze? Or does she buy all the groceries and let them rot in the fridge all week? At the beginning, it's a daily choice. It's a daily decision. And everything that we do is a choice. You can remove all the shame and the blame from that. You could choose to focus on the shame or the blame and say that you failed, or you can choose to let that empower you to realize that you actually have all the power and you have the choice for whatever it is that you want to make. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. We're going to focus on micro choices that you can make daily that add up to kind of massive shifts. We're going to talk about meal prep, some tips around meal prep that I have, tips around snacks that I have, and then tips around how to shift your mindset when it comes to nutrition. So if any of this resonates with you guys, tell me in the chat. Tell me how if you resonate with anything I say tonight. And if you have specific questions, just drop them in there and I will go through at the end. So let's talk meal prep. Who struggles with meal prep? Either planning it or executing it or all of the above, or making it and then not actually eating it. So tell me in the chat, what part of meal planning and meal prepping do you struggle with? Don't be shy. All of the above. Miranda, I love you. Dinners, all of it. I'm good with brekkie and lunches. Yeah. Okay. So all of it. Is it more like, is it the planning piece, like figuring out what it is to, like how to structure your meal planning and meal prepping for the week? Or is it like finding recipes? What are those parts that you struggle with? I get bored of the same things, planning it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to share with you. I have done meal planning in multiple ways. When I first started my journey, I did this was before 2B Mindset came out. And so we were doing more like 21-day fix, like the portion fix containers. So I literally prepped every single meal, like breakfast, lunches, dinners. And it worked for me at that time, but I was also not working full time then. I was off on mat leave. So it was easier for me to do that. But when I went back to work, man, you guys, 2 days off for a weekend is not long enough. Like I just didn't have enough time to plan it, go buy it, and then actually make it. So we shifted our meal planning and meal prepping about like a year into my journey, and it's all we do now. So we focus on buffet style meal prep. And if you have questions about that, I'm going to explain a little bit, but tell me if it's still not clear. So buffet style meal prep, this is probably an ADHD thing, but I can eat the same thing over and over and over again for breakfast and for lunches. Dinners, I like to have some variety, but if I find something I like, I will eat that thing every single day until I'm so sick of it, I can't possibly eat it again. So for me, I like to keep breakfast the same because breakfasts are nuts for us, and getting out of the house at a certain time is really, really difficult. So I like things like easy grab and go items. You can do smoothies if you like to pack them with things. But for me, I need to have at least 2 different protein sources and a carb with breakfast. That's how I stay full the longest. This is where supplementation can really help, because if you don't want to be walking around with fistfuls of chicken all the time, they really help because you can supplement with other sources of protein. But I like overnight oats because I can make 4 or 5 ahead of time and show them in the fridge and they're ready to go. Or I like the egg cups. You can make a ton and have them in the fridge ready to go. Same with breakfast sandwiches. If you're someone who has like an air fryer, you can make egg sandwiches in their, what are those called? English muffins, and wrap them in paper and put them in the freezer each day and have those. I really enjoy protein pancakes. I make them ahead and I toss them in the toaster every morning, or I toss them in the air fryer every morning. And it seems like a lot of work, but if I don't prep anything for the week, I prep my breakfast, because that way I know I'm starting the day with nutrition and I'm starting the day with things that are gonna make me feel good. For lunch, again, we do buffet style. So breakfasts are usually the only things that I plan in the entirety. Everything else I make components. So we usually choose 2 to 3 proteins for the week. We usually choose 2 to 3 starches for the week, and then a ton of veggies and mixed greens. So, and then your favorite dressing. So I really like the Primal Kitchen Dare, like the vegan dressings. They have like a really good, what are they called? There's like a ranch that I really like, and then there's a Green Goddess, one that's delicious. Yes, Alex, the ranch is so good. So I will make the protein, because that's always the one that takes the longest. We'll meal prep the protein and have that ready in the fridge for lunches and for dinners. So that way, if you're also trying to kind of get away from restriction and get away from like rules, like food rules, it's nice to have multiple items of the same category prepared, because then you can really listen to what you feel like eating that day and you have a variety to choose from. And I'll make Buddha bowls. So we'll have different proteins ready to go, different starches. So I usually use brown rice, quinoa, or sweet potatoes, and then vegetables, either cooked or like fresh, whichever one you prefer. And I literally just toss it in a bowl for lunch and I drizzle dressing over top. And if you're changing, sorry, Kate, I'm swearing and your little child is there. I apologize. If you have a couple different types of dressings and a couple different types of each category made, it doesn't get boring because you can grab and go from those pre-made buffet style throughout the week. I usually always have avocado on hand, like those little cucumber, tomato, all those types of beets. Costco has like pre-cooked, like vacuum sucked beets that are like delicious, and I throw that shit on everything. And then for dinners, again, we have the protein made already. So we don't do a lot of like casseroles or things that are like all combined in a recipe. We have components. So the protein, the starches, and the vegetables. And then that way at the night, when you're exhausted from your day, you already have the fiber-filled carbs ready to go. They're already pre-done. You have to heat them up, and same with the protein. And all you have to focus on is the vegetables. So we just cook our vegetables at night. I also love the Farm Boy veggie fries. I think PC has a brand as well. So good, because you toss them in the air fryer for 8 minutes and it feels like you're eating fries, but they're like beets and turnip and shit. It's delicious, so good. So find ways, like find the things you enjoy and find ways to incorporate them in your day. So does buffet style meal prep make sense to you guys? Do you understand what I mean by that? Like you're basically like you have a buffet in front of you and you get to decide what you want each day, whether it be lunch or dinner. Okay, let me take a quick peek at the chat before I move on. Planning okay, getting home and executing dinner. Exactly, Kim. So that's why buffet style meal prep might really work for you, right? Because if you have the protein and the carbs ready to go, all you have to focus on at night is the vegetables. And those are, that feels for me less overwhelming than trying to like create an entire meal. For example, my husband was in charge of making the meal plan this week, and he decided we were going to have stuffed peppers. Do you think any of the components of stuffed peppers have been made? And it is Thursday. It has not, right? So it's because at the end of your day, the idea of making stuffed peppers at 5 p.m. at night sounds terrible. Whereas when we do buffet style meal prep, all of like the meat's ready to go, the starches are ready to go, and all you got to do is vegetables. So it just feels less intimidating and less overwhelming for me. How do you know how much protein to cook? So we do Costco. We get our protein from Costco because I tend to go for like 2 servings of protein, depending on which protein I have at each meal. And because I've done Portion Fix in the past, I have a rough idea of how much that is for different types of foods, different types of proteins. But we usually we'll buy a thing of chicken thighs. We'll make that entire batch and have it in the fridge. We'll have a thing of chicken breasts, have that made in the fridge. And same with like ground turkey or ground beef, depending on what it is that we want. So we'll have probably 2 of those individual packages of ground meat ready to go in the fridge. And then I usually have turkey bacon ready. I pop that in the air fryer for like 6 minutes in the morning. So whatever I'm having for breakfast will have protein in it, but then I have a second source of protein with my turkey bacon, and sometimes a third if I'm having recover. So it just depends on what it is that I'm having, but I'm trying to find ways to incorporate and increase my protein intake at each meal in different ways. Because for me, I find my cravings get more significant if I haven't had enough protein during the day. So I'll know if I'm like grabbing chocolate chips by the handful at 5 p.m., it's because I haven't had it. Either I haven't had enough protein or I haven't had carbs or I haven't even eaten enough that day, which is for me, it doesn't feel good. Like when I have, it's not that I don't love, I mean, I love chocolate, but I don't feel good the next day if I'm like fistfulling chocolate chips, right? And I think that's the shift that we have to make in our decision when we're making these nutritional shifts. Is it's not about restricting yourself. It's not about how much sugar is in the chocolate. It's not how much calories you're eating. It's how does it make your body feel the next day? Because if your body feels like garbage, you're not going to show up in your day the best that you can. I know for me, I will be short. I will be a little bit grumpy, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be short and irritated with my family or at work, right? It just doesn't, that stress, I don't need that stress in my life. Okay, let me check the chat one more time. I'm always starving when I get home from work. Yes, you absolutely need more protein. Protein has been my struggle. Too much meat makes me sick. But there are other ways to have protein, right? And so one way you can diversify your protein intake during your meals is like Buddha bowls, for example, for lunch. So you can have tofu as one source. You can have quinoa as another source. You can have black beans as another source, right? There's lots of other ways to get protein in without it being meat all the time. And same thing for breakfast. Like there's a delicious tofu scramble that I've made for breakfast. I think, Alex, I think I shared that one with you, right? It's got like turmeric in it. It's so good, you guys. And it's pure protein, it's tofu. And then I have turkey bacon on the side of it. And sometimes I even have recover with it too, right? So it's finding interesting ways to add in that protein source. But if you are starving by the time dinner comes, you are hands down not eating enough protein in the day. So I would reevaluate, like looking at your meals, what do your meals look like? And if you were to like plug in even just containers for a day to figure out how many sources of protein you are, I increased my reds when I was doing portion fix for me. Tofu air fried is so good. Yes, it's delicious. I would even add that to my Buddha bowls, even if I had chicken in it, right? Like I would add chicken and tofu. It's delicious. Does air fryer help with tasting better? I got rid of our microwave. We don't own a microwave. It's in our basement. We use it maybe once a month. All we use is our air fryer because when you reheat something, it like crisps it up and it's delicious. It's so good. So yes, that would be my answer. And yeah, same as Alex, I have my Shakeology as a snack, but what I find is if I've structured my meals to have enough protein and carb throughout the day, I'm not hungry at all between meals. I'm not hungry until 5:30 or 6, and I eat around 12:30, right? So, and then I save my Shakeology at night because I sometimes like a little treat. So I'll make little energy balls with them and have that as my treat at night. So it just depends on what it is that you're looking for, but I would reevaluate what your meals look like throughout the meal. I love tofu. Yeah, tofu scramble looks terrifying. It looks like it's someone they're trying to like torture you with food, but it's actually delicious. So try it, experiment it. It's really, really good. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, but prepping snacks. So if you are like Kim, you're getting home from work, you're starving. This is where having stuff grab and go ready in the fridge is going to be key for you, right? That's not something that I find I need anymore. I did for a while, but now that I've shifted and added a little bit more protein, I'm not needing it as much. But if you are struggling with prepping during the weekend, have the things where you know you're going to make impulsive decisions in the moment that aren't going to feel your best, right? So for me, that's breakfast, 100%, and for lunch, because sometimes I have to eat on the road. So if I don't have those two things ready to go, I'm more likely to make a decision like grab a handful of chocolate chips or a handful of nuts or whatever, which is fine, but it's not going to fill me and keep me energized throughout the whole day. Then I'm going to feel depleted and not on the top of my game. So choose the things that you struggle with the most and focus on those for your prep. So for me, that's like Shakeology, we already talked about that. Shakeology is our snack. rice cakes with smashed avocado on top, delicious. Plain Greek yogurt with like PB2 in it. So you make it kind of like a whip. What are those things that Alana calls it? Like a Wonder Whip? Delicious. Energy balls, granola bars, protein muffins, cheese, apple, cucumber, like have those things ready to go in your fridge. And so that you have something to grab, or have it with you as you're like driving home from work each day. Some people will say like have fresh cut veggies ready to go in the fridge. That's awesome. I will be honest with you. If I'm starving, I do not want to grab a handful of veggies. It doesn't satiate, like it doesn't, maybe that makes me a bad coach, but it doesn't do it for me. And so if I'm going to have stuff prepared, I want to make sure I'm going to eat it, because luckily, like hands down, if I have fresh cut veggies, I'll probably have those for lunches and for dinners, but that's not what I'm going to grab at 5:30 when I'm starving, right? So have stuff in your fridge that you know you're going to want to grab when you're starving. And it's okay if those aren't fresh cut vegetables. You can have other delicious things that are still really good for you and will still keep you full and keep you satiated. Okay. And yeah, like if you're in one of our communities or when you join one of our communities, you're going to get all kinds of recipes and tools and things, and you'll get more throughout the month. Like you'll get a whole webinar series on how to handle nutrition, like how to learn about how you process foods, why certain categories of foods are more important than others. So you'll get all those tools as well. But the key is the prep, right? So you can plan it all you want, but if you don't do any of the prep, you're basically wasting money and throwing out food. So buffet style meal prep is going to be the key. And then choose to focus on the areas where you struggle the most. So if it's breakfast or snacks, breakfast or lunch, figure out those two areas that you struggle the most and then focus your energy there. Do the basics, stick to it, and make the choice, right? Draw that line in the sand and make the choice, because nobody's going to do that for you. Okay, next tip. So starting to shift your identity with food. It doesn't need to be something that you restrict. Food doesn't need to be something that you don't allow yourself pleasure for. It doesn't need to be something that you tell yourself you can't have. For me, when I started making those changes, I started focusing as food as fuel, right? How does it make me feel? And how can I then show up better in my day because I'm nourished? One of the things I tell my clients all the time is, how can you self-parent yourself? Because if you're a parent, if you're a mom, man, our kids eat so well, right? But oftentimes we are not eating as well as we are forcing our children to eat. So self-parent yourself. I know that sounds weird and kind of in a creepy way, but like seriously, like what would you tell your child? What snacks are you giving your child? What meals are you giving your child? Why aren't you giving that to yourself too? Self-parent. Stop telling yourself that you can't have something, because y'all, I don't know about you, and you can tell me in the chat, but if I tell myself I can't have something, I am literally obsessing about that the rest of the day. And then I'm binging on it. I'm not just having like a few of that thing, I'm having 14 of the Oreo cookies, right? So it's not the food that's bad. It's just food. It's just food and how it makes you feel. And when you tell yourself you can't have it, that's where the recipe for binging comes. So instead, ask yourself some questions, get curious. Have you eaten enough today? Have you had enough water today? Have you had enough protein today? Chances are, if you aren't parenting yourself enough, you've probably missed meals, or your meals aren't as well-rounded. And that is what's going to derail you. Still have the Oreo, but maybe have some protein and some vegetables and some water before you do that. And not from a place of restriction, but from a place of, how is this going to make me feel? Right? The other question to ask yourself is, are you restricting too much? Are you restricting food groups? That is a recipe for binging, because then your body's not getting the nutrients it needs to actually function. And you're just like spinning your wheels and feeling exhausted and grumpy by the rest of the day. So you're going to get to a point in your journey where you can choose to have a treat because you want to, because it feels good, and not let that derail you. And it takes time. But in order to get there, you have to kind of shift your identity with nutrition, right? How does Heather 2.0 show up? How does Kate 2.0 show up? What kind of decisions does she make around food? What does she tell herself around food, right? And every decision at the beginning, ask yourself, how would so-and-so show up today? And make that choice. It's not always going to be perfect, and you're not always going to make that decision, and that's okay. But the more you start changing your self-talk and your narration around food, the more you're going to see those bigger shifts over time. And the last thing I'm going to say, if the scale is a trigger for you, stay it off. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Focus on how you feel. Journal how you feel. Journal what you put in your body that day, and how did you feel the next day. That's it. That's all you got to focus on. Okay, let me look at the chat before I keep going. I don't even put my groceries away. You start prepping right away. That's a great idea, Natasha. I didn't even think of that. So Natasha sometimes will, like, before she even brings, like when she gets her groceries home, she won't put them away until she starts prepping them. That's a great idea. We need to put snack in front of us. Yes, exactly. But if you make a snack that's yummy and has protein and fiber and all the things in it, you're probably going to want to grab that over a handful of carrots. Just my own feeling. Okay, next tip. This is probably one of the biggest things. If you take nothing away tonight, take this away, is the idea of creating a book of proof for yourself. So this is something I tell my clients and my coaches all the time. And you can do this in your business or in your nutrition or in your fitness. Like, you can apply it to all areas of your life. Have a book of proof. I love it, Natasha. Have something that you write down all of your wins in. For me, I use my phone because I have my phone with me all the time. So I have a notepad that's just titled Book of Wins, or Book of Proof, sorry. And every time you feel proud of something, every time you've made a decision that aligns with that 2.0 version of you, every time you feel excited about something you've accomplished, even if it's getting your water in that day, write that shit down. Because what happens on those harder days is we don't remember all the good things. All we remember is how we failed. And if you're going to shift your perspective on your identity and in your wellness, who you want to show up as, and eventually shift who you are and how you act and how you feel, you have to start focusing on the things that you're doing well instead of focusing on all the things that you're not. It works. It works in your fitness. It works in your nutrition. It works in your business, in your relationships. You can literally apply this concept to everything. My husband and I use this because oftentimes when you're married and you live through a global pandemic and you're on top of each other all the time, everything they do, like breathing, becomes annoying, right? You forget about all the things that you actually enjoy about one another, the wins, right? Same thing. Apply that concept to all the things. Because then on the hard days, you can literally open up your book of proof and remind yourself of the things that you are doing. Trust me, if you take nothing away, that's the biggest one. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is choosing to make small, consistent changes. So oftentimes, and you can pop this in the chat if this resonates with you, but oftentimes when people get started, they're like, you're either like all in or all out. You're either like 100% in, or you're like, fuck it, I ate a handful of chips, I'm done, I'm going to start again next Monday. This is the biggest thing that you guys can do for your journey, is not focus on 100%. Take where you want to go and make small micro goals from those. So small habits that you're stacking consistently over time. Maybe that's going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Do that for a week, then add on something else. Maybe it's getting up 30 minutes earlier. Do that for a week, add something else. Those smaller, consistent changes will result in bigger, massive shifts over time. Plus, when you follow through with those small, consistent changes, you're going to breed more confidence in yourself, right? The more we follow through with the things that we say we're going to do for ourselves, the more we believe it when we set goals. A lot of us set goals, and because we're so used to bailing on ourselves and so used to not following through with promises that we make to ourselves, we give up before we even get started because we don't believe that we can even make that goal or reach that goal in the first place. But how you start to change that confidence and how you start to change that belief is by following through with those small goals, mini ones. And they might feel like micro steps in the beginning, but I promise those micro steps will lead to like big leaps. You have to find a balance between giving yourself grace and keeping promises you say you're going to have to yourself, because it's a mindset trap, right? As you're starting to heal your relationship with wellness and your relationship with nutrition, there's a really big pull to say, I'm giving myself grace today. I'm giving myself grace today. And yes, we should. However, we need to find the balance between giving ourselves grace and following through with the promises that we make to ourselves. Because when you do that, you believe yourself more, and it feels so much better than anything else you can do in your journey. Okay. Whew, I'm fired up, you guys. Questions. Feel free to unmute yourself. I'm just reading the chat here. I want to try that book of proof. Yes. So, Adriana, use your phone. I find for me, because I have my phone on me, I'm the kind of person that if you know me, I have a planner for everything. But sometimes I don't have my planner with me. And then I'm like, oh, I can't write that down because I don't have the exact book that I want to write it in. I'm very rule focused. So for me, I always have my phone. So my book of proof is in my phone, because then no matter where I am, I have something to write down and I have something to read from at the same time. Okay, questions. Things that still aren't clear or that you need help with. Don't be shy. The other thing you should know about me is I'll wait here till it's really awkward until someone actually says something. Help. Help with what, Alex? I need more specificity than help. Oh, night snacks. I get it now. I get it too. Okay, night snacks. Okay, well here, I'm gonna go on a really unpopular opinion here. I would be willing to bet, Alex, if you added more protein to the rest of your day, you wouldn't be hungry at night. That's what I would bet anything, because that's what happened with me. So when I actually started paying attention to my breakfast and my lunch, especially my breakfast and my lunch, like I increased protein at both of those. Like I can be dinner done at 6 p.m. and not be hungry at all until 6 a.m. the next morning. So that would be my first thing. Second thing though, I would have protein source at night. I would try to do more protein sources. That's why I usually keep my like Shaco balls to the evening, or like Wonder Whip would be another one, like a plain high protein Greek yogurt, PB2, some fruit, that kind of stuff on top. If you're hungry, eat. Always eat. Don't get trapped in like that food rule of I can't eat at nighttime. But where I'm going to hold that like loving mirror up for everybody is I would challenge you to look at the rest of your meals that day and see if there's ways you can increase your protein and your carb at breakfast and lunch for sure. I associate snacking with resting after the kids go to bed. Yeah, that's a habit. That's a habit. So when you snack, Adriana, do you take a hot second to like, okay, well, actually I have two questions. So first question, do you eat in front of the TV? And are you eating like while watching TV? That's my first question. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Are you typing in the chat? Oh yes, it's in the chat. I'm very delayed. Yes, watching TV. Okay. So I'm going to argue that you're okay. So before I go fast, second question: are you checking in with yourself before you start snacking to see if you're hungry? Right. So my suspicion is that snacking is actually you're trying to get either you're numbing from the rest of the day, or it's like a self-soothing. You're increasing kind of dopamine and serotonin. Right? You're needing more dopamine or serotonin from your day. That's usually why. And especially if you're eating in front of the TV, it's like mindless eating. You're not having that intention with food. and you're not checking in with your body to have that like intentional eating. So I would look at the rest of your day, see how your rest of your day is going in terms of nutrition, but I would also stop. I would like, even if you have to print a stop sign and put it in your kitchen, and like, so you have that visual, such an SLP thing for me to say, have a visual cue to be like, oh wait, I need to stop. Am I actually hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I actually hungry right now? Or am I just trying to find some self-care? And sometimes self-care is eating, and that's okay. But I think it's important to like stop and check in with yourself first. And are there other things that you could be doing that would still give you that same dopamine and serotonin and like self-care that you're looking for, but that also align with your goals and how you want to feel the next day? Because what I've noticed, and this all comes from journaling, right? Like our 2B mindset program is amazing because you really journal how you feel when you're eating. I notice when I eat later in the evening, even if it's like a good protein source, like good fiber-filled carbs, like even if it's a good snack, I don't sleep well. I don't sleep well, and I wake up groggy and I hit snooze. And that's because for me, I haven't given my digestive system enough time to like for the night. So I don't feel good the next day. So it might feel good in the moment, that like instant gratification piece of snacking, but it doesn't align with how Natasha 2.0 wants to show up for her day the next day. So I'm going to challenge you to do that. And I'd love to hear if it works and if you've noticed some changes, but fill that gap with something different. If you still want to watch TV, but like make yourself a nice tea or like chug some water, you know what I mean? Like have your hands busy with something. For me, I've gotten back into reading. Alex knows, some spicy novels in the evening, and that's just taken all my focus. Like I just sit and I read for like an hour and a half before bed, and it's glorious. And it's completely changed. Yes, Alex says it too. It's changed my evening, and I haven't watched TV in like 2 weeks. So that numbing piece can still occur, but shifting it to something that aligns with where you want to go and how you want to feel. Vlog. Yes. I will wait till the recording is off, but all of you need to read the series Flock. It's amazing. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Awesome advice. I'm good. I'm glad that helped you. How do I increase food when I feel not hungry, but I know I'm under eating? Steph, that's a hard one. So I think I probably would look at the food that you're having, and rather than increasing the volume of the food, I would increase the nutritional value of the food. So like instead of eating more, I would try to shift it so that you're including more protein and carb. That's what I would do. So like, can you give me an example of what you eat for breakfast and or lunch? Or what are the meals, I guess, that you struggle with in terms of like?
The meal I struggle the most with is lunch.
Lunch.
I'm okay with breakfast, and then by dinner I'm starving, or actually no, by dinner I'm not hungry because I've eaten at 2 because I haven't had lunch because I'm not hungry at lunchtime.
Yes.
And then like 2 o'clock and I'm like, I'm eating crackers now because
they're quick and easy.
Right?
They're quick and easy. So what does your breakfast look like? What are you doing for breakfast?
I usually either do oatmeal with chia seeds and hemp hearts with peanut butter, or a breakfast sandwich on an English muffin with like a sausage patty and egg.
Okay.
So my breakfast isn't bad, but then I eat my breakfast at like 6 a.m. and I don't eat again till.
So I would argue that your oatmeal one doesn't have nearly enough protein for you. Your English muffin one is probably fine, especially if you're doing like a sausage and an egg.
Yeah.
With the fiber-filled carb. As long as your English muffin, I like to have carbs at least 3 grams of carbs in there, or fiber, sorry, not carb. Per like, I find it helps me stay full longer. So that one's probably fine. But your oatmeal, that's just fiber-filled carb. You're not getting it. I mean, you're getting some protein from the chia seeds and the hemp hearts, but I would add a second source. I would add turkey bacon.
Okay.
And I would see how that makes you feel different.
Okay.
That morning. In terms of lunches, so if lunch is the biggest thing that you struggle with, is it stopping for lunch or is it having stuff prepared? Because you work in
Both.
healthcare.
I do, but I
Get
work
it.
from home. So
Oh, you work from home. Okay.
I work from home, but my lunch now isn't until we have to pick up my son from school because of lack of childcare.
Right.
So I don't actually have a lunch break.
Okay.
So if I don't stop, I don't notice it until, and then I'm not hungry because I've like passed the point of where I was hungry.
So if you pick up your son at 2?
3:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get you eating. Do you have the capacity, like if you had something prepped at home, do you have the capacity to not take a call or whatever at like 12:30
Yeah.
and shove your
Yeah,
face?
for
Okay.
sure.
So then
I also eat on meetings if I have to.
okay. So I think part of it is is habit, but 2 is the attention, right? So for me, at the beginning, I had to schedule my lunches with alarms in my phone. So especially if you're someone who has like if you hyper focus,
Mhm.
like if you struggle with
Very
ADD
much so.
like I do, you'll hyper focus on a task and then you're like, shit, it's 4 o'clock and I haven't done anything else. So reminders, like alarms on your phone, set an alarm every day for 12:30. And then for you, for your meal prep, I would be focusing on lunches. Have your lunches prepped, like have the individual components. So all you have to do is throw shit in a bowl and you have lunch.
Okay.
I want to
Thank you.
know. I want you to check it. I want you to do that this weekend and I want to hear it next week.
Okay.
Accountability.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. Reading. Prep ahead. Oh, now we're sharing book ideas. Okay. It's a whole other call, you guys. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I will share the recording in our group. And do you have any other questions? Like Emily, do you have questions? Who else? Miranda, Jess, Kate, I saw your beautiful face. Do you have questions this is your chance before we hop off? Kate's like, stop calling my name. I don't have questions. Okay. If you have questions, pop them in the group. I will answer them. And I hope this was helpful, and know that it will take time. But every small step that you make is going to help shift kind of who you feel and who you show up as in your journey each day. All right, guys. Bye. Happy Thursday.